It can be one of the loneliest feelings to have someone in your partnership feels like your someday dream is too far off and they're not yet on board. But here's the truth. Resentment doesn't come from the difference in your dreams. It comes down to a breakdown in your partnership. I spent years wanting to move abroad before my husband was on board with the idea. At least our timing ideas were different. And I'm so proud of how we've navigated it. So I want to share that with you, what worked for us. I'm continuing on my last video where I talked all about how to start preparing yourself when you are ready for a big dream before your partner is. So here I want to talk about a little bit deeper how to avoid resentment, how to hold back on getting frustrated and angry when you are ready for something before they are. So in marketing and negotiation, we look for a win-win. A third way, the solution that serves the whole of the mission, not just one side. I realized I wouldn't have won by forcing him into anything. And I would not have been forced either into his way. The truth was we'd actually lose because we'd be then traveling with somebody who didn't want to be there, or I'm here and I'm upset, and that's not fun for anybody involved. So instead what I did is I decided to hold my vision in one hand and hold his hand with the other. I stopped trying to win an argument and instead looked for a win on the whole entire solution that worked for both of us. So I'm Noelle. I'm a realist dreamer. We are a little over 5 months away from launching our life abroad, and I'm doing it with my husband by my side, happily. Today I'm sharing that raw reality of when there was a gap in our dreams and what we thought was possible and how we navigated that. So I'm sharing the raw reality behind my hustle and his hesitation, the things we use, the tools, like cost of living data, like redefining our identity outside of our careers or our current life, the specific ways I prepared that on-ramp so that the dream felt like a plan and not just panic or a someday goal. If you feel stuck between your marriage and your calling, this video is for you. Let's talk about how you can move forward together without leaving your dreams or your partner behind. Step 1 is having a goal. It's a family solution. This is really important, not a personal victory. Your goal is not to win. Your goal is to think of a solution and try to approach this in a way that can work for everyone. So shift your perspective from, I want this, why doesn't anyone see my way, into genuinely trying to look at how can my family thrive best in this situation. For me, what I did was I declared my why. I was vulnerable, but honest. There may have been tears involved, and this may have happened several times over a few years, where I was really feeling desperate, this feeling inside of me where I knew I wanted to see the world. I wanted us to not just fly in and be exhausted for a few days and quick check off a bunch of things off our list and then fly home and dive back into life. I have felt for some time like I have outgrown this life that we're in. And I'm ready for something different, and I wanted to explore that together. I wanted to do it while our son was young enough to be able to still come with us and explore and show him the world. I wanted to do it in a way where we were doing what we love, that we could spend time together. And so it took me some time to share that with him. But what I realized was I needed to show him not just that, yes, honey, you have this dream, I get it, but that it was possible. And so how did I do that? It started with the next step, which is really deep listening. This is an art form, and it does not come easy always. But is there a reason? What is the reason, whether you agree with it or not, that your partner isn't understanding or doesn't care or doesn't get, or just simply has a different opinion to what your goal or dream is? And so what I found through just listening and really without my own agenda, hearing his heart, was this is a man who's worked his whole life. He has shown up for his family. He has shown up and made sure we had our bills paid. He takes that very seriously. And to have that just stripped away, A, doesn't feel like it's even possible. B, who is he without that? And C, how are we going to afford? Like, if we don't have tons of extra money here in this life and we're in our own home and we already live on a budget, how in the world are we going to go to these other places and make that happen? And so by listening to him, I could understand more of what he was saying. It wasn't anything against what I was believing, but it gave me a roadmap to helping me learn what his position was. And he was open to changing. He would say, like, show me the money, show me the way, and I'm on board. But otherwise, I don't know how we make this happen until retirement. And I would say, challenge accepted, right? So in the meantime, I would, as I've shown in my last video, I would start creating this on-ramp. I would tend to my own garden. And I would start preparing. And I will share the link to that video because it really goes through of what that looked like. But step 3 in this process is then building the third way. So what does a solution looks like where his needs and fears are addressed as well as mine? The realist side of me was there's a realistic cost. We just went as a family of 4 to Japan this last summer. The realistic cost of us doing that for about 12 days is about the same as the 3 of us that are doing this long-term travel, buying our one-way tickets and staying for 2 months at our first 2 locations. It's coming out actually probably cheaper. It's actually going to end up being about 3 months to meet that same cost. Because, why is that? Well, the round trip flight, which I know eventually we have to pay to get back home, I get that. But there's the round trip flight. We were staying in hotels for the entire time versus renting an Airbnb for a month, which is a huge cost savings. We will have a kitchen. We can prep some of the food, have just easy breakfasts, make things a little bit more like real life. When you're only going for 12 days, you pay to do more things. We did Universal Studios and some other, racing across the country in these high-speed trains that was $1,000+ total for the 4 of us in train fare alone. When you're there for a month, you can take the slower way. You can take the scenic routes. You can walk more. You're not in such a rush. And you can have days in between where you don't do a lot. And it's calmer. And our first location, which I'll reveal at a later date. And then our second location is a more affordable but really fun location. And so that alone is going to be a huge budget savings month for us. So that's how we started to show. There's a realistic part to the money on a 12-day vacation versus 2+ months of travel being the same cost. When you're not flying back and forth and spending 12 to 18 to 20 to 30 hours in travel each way, even simply our last trip to Japan, we had to do a layover in Seattle. So we chose to get a hotel. Then we flew out. I broke down the trip to save a little bit on airfare. So we used one airline to fly to Seattle. We stayed the night. And I used points for the hotel, so that was free. But we ended up, there was no restaurants really by us. There was a really high-end, steakhouse in the lower level of the hotel that was it was going to be hundreds of dollars for us to eat down there. And so we thought, all right, we'll just get something super simple. We got McDonald's through Uber Eats. It came out to $100 for 4 of us to eat. Just a normal, extra value meal for each person. And we didn't even get all our food because some of it was missing and there was no recourse. that is frustrating. And so when you can make different choices because you know more as you learn more, we're packing some extra power bars and maybe we're taking an Uber to a place to buy food instead of getting food brought to us. Just simple things like that are big savings. So number 4 was integrity. This is a really big deal to me. I want to honor my partner as I hope they honor me. And I don't want to win at the expense of winning. That isn't a win to me at all. And so it was really important for me to simply start preparing in a way until he was ready or we were on the same page. I could start preparing in every way that I could. I knew this was going to happen at some point. I knew we were both on the same page about that. So I found as far as we could get in agreement, and I'm going to prepare to that point. And so for me, like I've mentioned, that was selling things, that was building up our savings accounts. That was a very conscious effort to start closing loops and simplify our schedule, we're talking everything from unsubscribing from emails that were no longer going to be a part of our future. And this is daily things that happen. I've on like an almost 1,200 day streak on Duolingo of learning languages to build that skill up. The time, the money, the friendships, really being intentional about trying to stay in touch with the little time I have between class and homeschooling and work and all the things. A really big one for me was wrapping up my business. I knew that I wasn't going to be doing in-person physical art products anymore. And so that was a months-long, years-long, really, process of clearancing those out and doing it in a way that didn't devalue the artwork. Really wrapping up piece by piece by piece of that process and helping those pieces find their homes and enjoying it. And I'm so glad I had a few years to do that. It really helped me wrap that with a bow, in a sense, to where I feel complete with it. And now I still just have a last few things that I'm still shipping out or orders, and most of them are digital now, which I love. But every time something comes in, it's harder and harder for me to fulfill that with what I have because I don't have my normal art setup in my studio, my shipping stations, all of the things. So it's just a little bit more tedious, but I just think this may be the last time I do this. I don't know. And so I try to just be in a space of gratitude about it and appreciation and excitement for the next chapter. The other thing was, and I mentioned this, I don't remember if it was this video or the last video, but going back to college, that was a big way I could prepare. I was ready for that next step, and it's helped me a ton build my own knowledge base. But it also helped my son just have more time. We were together all of the time. And so it helped him gain independence. He's a teenager. He gets to have his time and he takes it very seriously. And he has all sorts of things that he does. And he's very organized. And it's been a really great win for both of us in that way. And number 5 was I would share helpful content. Not in a weird, like, I'm going to control what you see and eventually convince you way, but being very open about it. When you're ready, these are some YouTubers I'd recommend. When you're ready, here are some websites I found that have really good information and things that I think he would like, things that can, Numio or Numbeo, comparing cost of living data. So he can look at the numbers because for a little while, I don't think he believed me that it actually is cheaper in other countries than it is in America. And that is the case in much of the world. If you have an income coming in and you can do some geo arbitrage and use that income to live somewhere else cheaper, it's really a way that you can get ahead financially. And then be really smart so you don't tank that local economy either. You support the locals and you be wise about it. But there are ways that it can be done. And so by him starting to do that research and normalizing all of those things, he could build up his own knowledge base independent of me. I was not the keeper of the knowledge, and I didn't need to be, nor did I want to be. And so as he started to build up different resources than I would, what I loved is he would eventually start coming to me and sharing information with me. I was not a threat to him. He didn't worry that I was, for a little while, I'll be honest, a couple years back, I know that pretty like post-COVID times too, we were just itching to like make this happen, and it just was too soon for us, and we couldn't quite make it work. And I know I was a little nervous to even bring it up because it might have led to tears and frustration on my part. And yeah, I think going back to school helped me a lot because it gave me a place to put a lot of that energy for a couple years until everything was ready. So I'm really grateful about that. Instead of me just sitting there spinning my wheels, I had something to do and work on and keep my mind active and moving forward. So those are the 5 steps that really worked for us. I'm so proud of how we've navigated this. I'm going to just say that we're in a very supportive, loving relationship. And I'm very grateful I got a do-over in life to pick him. I married young, and that did not work out. And I don't know if I would have felt the same confidence. I'm sure I would not have. I don't know how things would have turned out, but I'm really grateful to be in a partnership where we do really genuinely try to listen to one another. And I know not everybody has that. So some of these may be not relevant for you, or I know that there's a certain part of this audience who might be listening and their spouse will never be on board. And at that point, you have to make a decision. If your life goals mean enough to you to go out alone, you find girlfriends to go with, you find ways to balance both. Years ago, I was on a cruise and I met a woman, and her husband just vacationed differently. She would go on the mall by herself, and she was totally okay with that. And she loved it. And her husband did his thing. And that's not what I would want, but that's okay. Like, she loved it. And I think that that's really important to know, that there's so many different ways that you can approach things, and they don't have to look how other people do them. It doesn't have to look how I would do them. It doesn't really matter how anyone else would do it. If it works for you, it works for you. And so it's just giving yourself permission to go for those dreams. And this video is really great if you have someone you want to share those dreams with who's not on board yet. But I have other videos all about if you know you have a dream and you really want to go for it, and it doesn't matter who's on board or who's not. I'll share some of those in the description because that is vitally important as well. Otherwise, none of this matters. You have to be true to yourself in knowing how to tune in and listen to what those dreams and goals are. Otherwise, you're just following the latest trends or what someone told you to do, and that's not fun. It can be fun for a little while, but ultimately it's not fun. So if you have anything you would add to this, I would love to hear. So I will keep you updated here. I'm posting lots of videos about this topic, kind of in this mindset. As I was sitting on the couch the other night and I was just looking at my husband, and just, I am so grateful. The less I try to make him what I think he should be, I know I'm going to botch how I say these words, but hear my heart with this. The more he shines through and is fully him, the greater he is, as his confidence has blossomed, and he's just like his best version of him I've ever seen. And he's in his early 50s, and he's just amazing. And it's been so fun to watch him grow and find his own voice, not because of me, but just life. And I think that's true with a partner, and it's true with anyone. When we celebrate them for them and cheer them on and let them tune inward and become their best versions of themselves instead of somehow trying to mold them into what we think they should be, the result is so much better. And at that point, at least we can honestly assess what that means in terms of us. Nobody is going to forever just be molded by another person, and that's exhausting to try to do that. And I think that's a lesson I learned through my first marriage is I don't want to babysit somebody, and it's not fun. And ultimately, it was a disservice to that person as well, because they get to be whoever they want to be and are probably way happier doing that. So, random thought that must have been for somebody who is going to watch this, because that was totally random, unexpected thing to say. But anyways, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here.